The rain fell in relentless sheets, soaking through Elena Hayes' threadbare coat as she stood before the towering gates of Blackwood Estate. Her shoes squelched with every step, her stomach clenched with hunger, and her pride, once unbreakable, had been worn down by too many empty nights. She had told herself 100 times she would never beg, never stoop so low, but tonight desperation pressed her forward. With trembling fingers, she pressed the intercom button, her voice barely carrying above the storm. "Please," she whispered hoarsely, "can I clean your house for food?" For a long moment, there was only silence, and she thought she would be turned away like before. But then, with a mechanical groan, the gates began to swing open, as though the mansion itself were allowing her entry. Her heart pounded as she walked up the winding driveway, the imposing house looming larger with every step. It was magnificent in its coldness, all glass and stone, shining under the streaks of lightning. She had seen houses like this only in magazines, symbols of a world so far from her own it might as well have been a different planet. Reaching the massive oak doors, she lifted her fist to knock, but they swung open before she could. And there he was. Damian Blackwood, the billionaire whose name was whispered in both awe and fear across the city, stood framed by the warm glow of the mansion's chandeliers. He was tall, sharply dressed even in the late hour, his storm-gray eyes piercing through her with unsettling intensity. But what startled her most was not his wealth, his power, or even his presence, it was the way he froze the instant his gaze landed on her. "Elena," he breathed, her name spilling from his lips like a secret he had been holding onto for years. She stiffened, stunned, her hunger momentarily forgotten. How did he know her name? She had never seen this man before, or so she thought. The raw shock etched across his features was not that of a stranger. It was recognition, deep and visceral, as though he were staring at a ghost he thought long gone. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to fade, silence pressing heavy between them. Elena's lips parted, her voice faltering. I only asked for food. I didn't mean," but before she could finish, Damian stepped forward, eyes locked on hers, his expression unreadable yet filled with something that made her pulse race with fear and an emotion she could not yet name. The silence between them stretched, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder and the rain dripping from Elena's hair onto the polished marble floor. She shifted uneasily beneath his gaze, feeling exposed, as though he could see every secret she carried. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice fragile but steadying itself. "I didn't know this was your house. I didn't come to cause trouble. I only asked for food. I can work, I can clean, anything you want." Her words tumbled out, desperate to bridge the chasm of tension, but Damian's expression did not soften. Instead, his eyes narrowed with something that looked like disbelief and recognition mingled together. "You don't remember me, do you?" he asked, his voice low, rough, carrying an edge she couldn't place. Elena's brows knitted in confusion, water dripping from her lashes as she shook her head. "Remember you? No, I don't, I've never met you before." His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking as though he were holding back something fierce. "Yes, you have. 5 years ago. The charity gala at the Grand Marlowe Hotel. You were there in a blue dress standing by the balcony, hiding from the crowd. You spoke to me. And then, before I could even ask your name, you vanished." The memory struck her suddenly, uncoiling from the back of her mind with vivid clarity. She had been dragged to that glittering event by her mother, who insisted that mingling with the wealthy might open doors. She had felt out of place, clumsy, invisible in a sea of diamonds and silk, until a boy with storm-gray eyes had found her on the balcony, speaking to her as though she mattered, as though he saw her. Her breath caught in her throat as realization dawned. "That was you," she whispered, her voice trembling with both recognition and disbelief. Damian took a single step closer, the storm behind him casting jagged light across his face, and in that moment he looked less like the untouchable billionaire the world revered and more like the boy who had once looked at her as though she were the only person in the room. "I searched for you, Elena," he said, the words sharp with frustration but laced with something softer beneath. "For years, I searched. And now you're here, standing at my door, asking to clean floors for food. What happened to you?" Shame burned through her chest, tears threatening to spill, but she turned her face away, whispering, "Life happened." She made to leave, but before she could take a step, Damian's hand closed around her wrist, firm yet trembling with emotion. His voice, steady but fierce, broke the air between them. "You're not here to clean my house. You're here to stay in it."